Hi, gang. Hi, I'm Eric, and welcome again to an episode of Every Movie Ever. This week we are under the sea to talk about movies that have to do with the ocean and under the sea and that kind of thing. It's a very exciting. And we're going to start this week by talking about The Abyss, the James Cameron movie where it's underwater type stuff. Now, I had never seen The Abyss before, and so I was very curious to check it out. It was a movie I'd always meant to see, but had never quite gotten around to it. And I had always thought it might be, oh, it looks like we've got a diver here. We got a diver hanging around. Oh, yeah, there he is. I hope he finds whatever it is he's looking for. But in the meantime, we're talking about The Abyss. And this is a movie that I had thought I wouldn't like so much, maybe. And you know what? I liked it pretty good. Ed Harris is real good in it. All the support. I really liked the actress who's the lead lady in it. I can't remember her name right now. Mary Elizabeth Mastriano, I think. But yeah, it was a good movie. It's a little long. It's pretty long. But otherwise, I quite enjoyed it. 3 stars. Another movie I'd never quite gotten around to seeing, Crimson Tide. This is the submarine movie, one of the 2 submarine movies that have something to do with the color red. This is the one with Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman, wherein Gene Hackman is the captain of the submarine, Denzel Washington is like the first officer, and there's a disagreement, and there's there's maybe a mutiny. I don't want to give too much away, and probably a pretty well-known fact about this movie. Features script rewrites from Quentin Tarantino. It's a pretty entertaining movie, very suspenseful at parts. I got really involved in it in a way I wasn't sure I would. This is another movie that I had just never seen, and so kind of had this opinion of that maybe I wasn't going to like it that much, but I liked it a lot. I'm going to give it 4 stars. So if we're going to talk Crimson Tide, we may as well talk about the other one. Let's talk Hunt for the Red October. This is an old favorite, certainly a movie I really enjoy. I'm a sucker for Sean Connery, and Sean Connery playing a Russian sub-captain. That sounds like a pretty good movie. This is the one where Sean Connery, again, Russian sub-captain, he wants to defect to the United States, so an American sub is tailing him and trying to stay hidden. Alec Baldwin and some dudes are on that sub. Sean Connery's got Sam Neill and Tim Curry and some other dudes on his sub. This is a really fun and engaging movie. I like it a lot. It's a good, a really strong, 80s, 90s kind of action thriller movie. Highly recommended it. 4 stars. Now, in this day and age, you can hardly talk about movies having to do with the ocean and not talk about the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Now, I'm only going to talk to you about the first one, The Curse of the Black Pearl. I'm not going to talk about parts 2 or 3. Saw them, couldn't tell you a thing about them. Don't remember them. I remember Bill Nye is that octopusy-looking dude, but, I thought that was stupid. And as for the 4th one, I watched maybe the first 10 minutes of it once, and I went, I'm fine. So let's talk about the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and let me surprise you by saying I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty entertaining movie. Now, you got to remember, this is back before Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow shtick got old. So he's in it, and he's fun. Jeffrey Rush is really fun as the bad guy. I like the weird sort of supernatural storyline was definitely a unique thing to do with pirates. Not anymore. Yeah, it's a fun movie. A little long, but pretty fun. Everybody's fun in it. This is, Diver's back. This is one I'd have to give 3.5 stars to. So far, we've been talking about some big blockbusters, some big movies that I'm sure you've heard of. Let's talk about one that only the weirdos in the audience have seen. Let's talk about Hard Ticket to Hawaii. This is an Andy Sedaris film, and for those of you who are familiar with that guy's filmography, you already know the sort of movie you're going to get. That's a trashy B movie with a lot of zoftig ladies in it, running around, shooting stuff. It's okay. Andy Sedaris movies are not great movies by any stretch of the imagination. This one is entertaining for having a weird kind of puppet snake thing in it that they have to fight. It's supposed to be a rare poisonous snake, but it's, you know, it's a big puppet. So that's pretty funny, especially how they end up dealing with the snake at the end. There's some bazookas for no reason in this movie, actual bazookas. Yeah, it's, you know, it's watchable. It's one of the more watchable movies in his catalog, but that's not saying a lot. So I'm going to give it 2 stars. Jumping back for a second to the movies I've always meant to see but never got around to seeing genre, let's talk about Cocoon. This is the movie where aliens show up to dig some cocoons out of the ocean with Steve Guttenberg's help. Meanwhile, a bunch of old dudes, including like Don Amici and Wilford Brimley, to figure out that if they take a bath with one of these things, they'll get to be spry feeling again. This movie's really stupid. Like, this is sort of the opposite of Crimson Tide and the Abyss, which are movies I didn't think I'd like. This is a movie where I felt like I was almost guaranteed to like it, and I did not. I think it was really stupid. I didn't find it particularly charming. I thought it was weird in a bad way, and then just, yeah, nonsense that I didn't care for. Boring nonsense. So I'm giving Cocoon 2 stars. So I'm flipping around on the DVR the other day, looking at the free on-demand movies, looking for a movie to watch. I come across this movie. It's called Miracle Beach. And it purports to be a movie about a genie. A couple of bros find a genie on the beach and they get some wishes. Now, here's the thing. I am a sucker for a movie involving a genie. I think that's a fun conceit. I don't think there are near enough genie-type movies. Oh, there's a wave coming. I don't think there's near enough genie movies. I'd like to see more of them. This is a very trashy 90s direct-to-video type of a thing that co-stars Pat Morita, of all people. And it's very much in the vein of a USA Up All Night type movie. I'm almost certain it was probably on Up All Night. Was it any good? No, not really. The bright spots definitely got to be the genie herself. The lady who plays the genie is a lot of fun, and she does good with the fish out of water shtick. But the movie itself, it's really dragged down by that the lead is this real slimy guy who I did not like at any point in the movie. So I'm only going to give Miracle Beach 1.5 stars. And you know, why am I saying stars? This is an under-the-sea show. I'm giving Miracle Beach 1.5 starfish. Now, those of you watching at home, I assume that every so often I review a movie on this show, and you say to yourselves, why did he watch, like, what goes through his brain that would make him want to watch this movie? Now, I would assume then that you say, well, this is a show about, it's every movie ever. He's got to watch every movie. But, you know, still, how am I picking these things? Well, with our next movie, My Father the Hero, starring Gerard Depardieu, I wish I could tell you. Pretty much I saw it on Netflix, had never seen it, remembered it being a movie, and then noticed that it starred Katherine Heigl, a young Katherine Heigl, as the female lead. And so I said, let's turn this thing on, see what the deal is. Friends, this is a terrible movie. I don't know if you know or remember or ever knew what the premise of this thing is, but pretty much Gerard Depardieu, for some reason, takes his daughter, he's divorced, so he takes, hey, let's say hi to the diver there. I think his name's Ben. He's been fishing around back there. So let's talk about My Father the Hero. Like I said, so the premise is that Gerard Depardieu, divorced guy, takes his daughter on vacation to like a sandals-type beach resort. And while they're down there, she falls in love or whatever with a guy. And to make him jealous, she tells the guy that she is an underage prostitute and that her father is her client. And so she's always acting all romantic and flirty around her dad, and her dad doesn't know what's going on. This was the grossest movie I think I've ever seen. It is not helped by that Gerard Depardieu is a pretty gross fella to begin with. But this premise is bonkers. It never works. I don't understand who thought this was a movie that American audiences would enjoy. It is a remake of a French comedy that was a big hit, so, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, My Father the Hero, 1 starfish. Now, if you're like me, and I know I am, after you've watched My Father the Hero, you for some insane reason get a hankering to watch Captain Ron. This is the movie where Martin Short and his family inherit a boat and they hire Kurt Russell's unsavory character Captain Ron to be the captain. I thought this was going to be real dumb. And here's the thing, it's only kind of dumb. I remember seeing it back in the day, remembered virtually nothing about it except Kurt Russell being a real kook. It's a pretty fun movie. There's some good bits in it. Kurt Russell is fun. Martin Short, I like Martin Short in a zanier role. I don't know how I feel about Martin Short being the straight guy in a movie. That's sort of weird. I think you would have been better off with like a Charles Grodin or a Richard Dreyfuss paired up against Captain Ron. But still a pretty fun movie. It's a movie where you get to see Kurt Russell running around in an eye patch, which you know what that means. You get to have a fan theory about after the apocalypse or whatever, does Captain Ron become Snake Plissken? That'd be weird, right? Anyway, pretty fun movie, 3 stars. Oh, 3-star fish! Now, I don't know how I've been under the sea this long this episode without talking about what has to be the definitive under the sea movie of the last 20 years. Let's talk Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo, it's one of those movies, folks. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's from the fine folks at Pixar. Great animation, great acting, amazing story, touching story about a father clownfish getting separated from his son clownfish Nemo. Ellen DeGeneres is a different fish named Dory. They go on all kinds of adventures, and it is such a terrific and heartwarming and wonderful movie. If you haven't, it's par for the course for Pixar, and that par is really high. This is a really terrific movie. There's nothing you can give Finding Nemo but 4 starfish. Well, you know Disney. Finding Nemo was great, made a bunch of money. How are we going to capture lightning in the bottle again? Let's make Finding Dory. Finding Dory seems like even more of a cash grab of a sequel than many Disney sequels, in no small part because Finding Nemo felt like such a self-contained story. They set out to find Nemo, they found him, end of story. But they make a lot of hay out of mining this movie for the character of Dory, played by Ellen DeGeneres, who has memory issues and trying to find her family. This is a surprisingly touching movie. It's not quite as good as the first, but it gets up there. There's a lot of great humor in it, a lot of good adventure, and the heart is still really there. This is not a phoned-in sequel at all. I don't know if it's a strictly speaking necessary sequel, but it was very enjoyable and very well and tastefully done in a way that you wouldn't expect from this kind of a thing. So I've got to give Finding Dory 3.5 starfish. Sticking with the Disney theme, let's talk about a forgotten animated Disney movie from the early 2000s. Let's talk Atlantis, The Lost Empire. This was one, probably the most, it's Michael J. Fox as your lead voice actor in this, in a very Edgar Rice Burroughs style adventure where it's like the 1940s and a scientist and a team of, I don't know, mercenaries or whatever go on a mission to find the lost continent of Atlantis. Of course, they find it, and then they have adventures in Atlantis with the Atlanteans and stuff. This is a movie that nobody ever talks about, that I don't feel like did that great, but I liked it. I'm a sucker for those Edgar Rice Burroughs type Tarzan type movies or Pellucidar or whatever, and these are very much in that vein. The other big thing these have going for it is the design work from Mike Mignola, the celebrated comic book artist and creator of Hellboy. So that really gives a great style to the movie. Like I said, it's very enjoyable. If you haven't given it a chance, I think you should. 3.5 stars. Deeper, bluer, deeper, bluer. Of course, we have to be talking about, we're under the deep blue sea. Let's talk about Deep Blue Sea, the Jaws meets Die Hard movie where an aquatic science station gets overrun by weaponized sharks. LL Cool J is a chef on the station. He has to fight some sharks. Samuel L. Jackson's there. He has to fight, and let's be honest, get eaten by a shark. This is one of those movies that a lot of people talk about as one of the all-time great bad movies. It is, to me, not that great. I have never enjoyed it particularly. I don't think it quite gets to that so bad it's good area. So for me, I can only give Deep Blue Sea a deep 2 starfish. Now, we talked about Jaws in a previous episode, so go watch that. I don't remember which one. But let's talk about the Jaws sequels since we're under the water. We'll start with Jaws 2. This is the one that has Roy Scheider and a couple of the side characters back. It's the only sequel to take place again on Amity, as it's the next summer and a shark is attacking again. This is a movie that only got made because it was in Roy Scheider's contract. Apparently, Richard Dreyfuss was able to not have it in his contract, so he didn't come back. I think this one's a stinker. It's got a couple of moments, but I don't think it's that great. I think it's really, really boring. It's boring, uncreative, uninteresting. Some moments, sure, but they try to make a lot of hay out of some kids on a boat that ran down, being attacked by the shark, trying to make it the next Orca, and it doesn't work for me. 2 starfish. Let's talk Jaws 3. I like Jaws 3. This is one of those movies for me that's a so bad it's good movie. It was originally made in 3D. I would love to see it in 3D. I bet that would be a ton of fun. This is a bunch of years later. One of the sons, one of Roy Scheider's kids from Jaws, is all grown up, and he works at what is essentially SeaWorld with Louis Gossett Jr. and Leah Thompson. SeaWorld gets overrun by some mean sharks. How does that work? Why don't they just stay out of the pools? I couldn't tell you. It's a bad movie, but it's one I enjoy the heck out of. 2.5 starfish. As far as Jaws sequels go, that only leaves us with the 4th one, Jaws the Revenge. This mercilessly stupid movie about Roy Scheider's wife. Roy Scheider has died off screen of fear. He was so afraid that the shark was going to come back that he died. So a pretty unceremonious death off screen for Roy. As far as the rest of this movie, they go to the Bahamas. Michael Caine's there with like a plane. And the plot of this one is the mother of the shark from Jaws has followed them to the Bahamas to seek revenge. Whew! I don't think I need to say any more, except 1.5 starfish. Speaking of monsters, let's talk about Kong Skull Island, which is a movie that has scenes in the water, so leave me alone. This is the most recent King Kong movie. It came out just this past summer. It's big, it's dumb, it's got Kong fighting helicopters, and it's oddly a movie about the Vietnam War with a bunch of soldiers led by Samuel L. Jackson coming just back from the war to fight King Kong. You got your Loki is in this one, Brie Larson's in it, John C. Reilly is in it. This is a fun summer movie. It is not the smartest movie in the world, but it's a heck of a romp. It's a real good time that does not shy away from the giant monkey action. 3.5 starfish. So M. Night Shyamalan, do I need to say any more? Big hit with The Sixth Sense, nothing since. Lady in the Water is one of the movies from, I guess, the middle of his career, and one where he felt he should have a very big role. Paul Giamatti is a I don't know, what do you call it? Not landlord, a superintendent at a California apartment building who one day finds a magical fairy played by, played by Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, there's her name. And he tries to help the magical fairy with the help of the other people who live in the apartment building. This movie is boring and stupid and trite and cliched, and every bad thing a movie can be. Paul Giamatti is a good enough actor, and so are a lot of the other supporting actors, to buoy it a little bit, but real dumb. 2 starfish. You know what? Let's get back to talking about some monsters. I like talking about monsters under the water. I like monsters in general. So let's talk about Lake Placid. This is the one where a bunch of, I don't know, naturalist, park ranger-y type guys have to fight a giant alligator in, I don't know, the bayou, I guess, that has been raised by Betty White and is murdering people. This is a fun, bad movie. It's real silly. Oliver Platt's hamming it up in this. You got a couple other good ham bones living things up. The alligator's pretty funny. It's not a good movie, certainly, but it's fun to watch. 2.5 Starfish. All right, let's close it out. One last movie here before I try to find dry land. Let's talk about Piranha 3D. Remember what I said I had wished that I had seen Jaws in 3D? Well, I did go see Piranha 3 in 3D, and that was worth it. One of the best times I've had seeing a 3D movie probably ever. Oh, there goes the diver again. Just barely saw his snorkel there. I hope he's finding what he's looking for. But anyway, Piranha 3D, this is a real fun movie. It's a very, it's kind of, it's a B movie to be sure. It's definitely a late night HBO, late night Cinemax kind of an affair that at least has a good sense of humor to it and knows the movie it is. It is jam-packed. Well, there's a bunch of good kills. It's jam-packed with a bunch of, actor cameos. It stars Elizabeth Shue. Jerry O'Connell's in there. You get big cameos from Christopher Lloyd, Richard Dreyfuss, and a bunch of other people. You got Ving Rhames, you got Paul Scheer, and you got a bunch of piranhas eating a bunch of kids at spring break. What more can you say about Piranha 3D than that you got to give it 3 Starfish? All right, well, that's it for this episode of Every Movie Ever. Let's see if we can get that diver to come in over here. Good night, everybody. Oh, there he goes.